Welcome, everyone, to the Money Smart for Older Adults training. Thank you for being here to learn about the important issue today. This is the final webinar in a series discussing approaches to combating elder financial exploitation. This webinar will be recorded and shared with registrants after today's session. For today's training, there are a few pods in Adobe Connect that you may use. On the far left side of your screen, you will see a Q&A box. Please enter any content-related questions in this box, and we'll answer them during the Q&A portion of today's session. To the right of that box is an FAQ and links document. This includes helpful answers to common questions, as well as links to resources that we'll be referencing throughout the training. And finally, on the right side of your screen, you'll see the chat box. This is a great place to introduce yourself, the organization you're with, and where you're calling in from. Throughout the training, we'll also be asking for feedback, and you can provide that in the chat box as well. I'd now like to introduce Lisa Schifferly, Senior Policy Analyst in the Office of Older Americans at CFPB. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final webinar in our Elder Fraud Prevention and Response Network webinar series. Today, we're going to talk about how to use the Money Smart for Older Adults curriculum to help older adults guard against identity theft, scams, and other forms of financial exploitation. Basically, Money Smart for Older Adults is a really great tool for building and enhancing your network. So we are going to talk today about how to use Money Smart with your network. Let me start with some quick introductions. My name's Lisa Schifferly, and I'm a Senior Policy Analyst in the CFPB's Office for Older Americans. At the CFPB, I lead the Money Smart for Older Adults program along with Jennifer Duane. I also work with Jennifer on the Elder Networks project that she leads. Before coming to the CFPB, I worked as an attorney at the FTC and Maryland Legal Aid. With me is Ron Howergy from the FDIC. And Ron works on both youth banking and Money Smart for Older Adults initiatives on behalf of the Outreach and Program Development section, which is in the Depositor and Consumer Protection Division of the FDIC. He joined the FDIC in 2009 and was the founding member of the Money Smart for Older Adults product development team in 2013. His team hosts the FDIC's award-winning Money Smart suite of financial literacy products. So we are very glad to have him joining us today. As you'll hear, Money Smart for Older Adults is a joint project from the FDIC and the CFPB. So we are glad to be working on the webinar together as well. In today's presentation, we're going to focus on Money Smart for Older Adults. First, we're going to set the stage by sharing some background about elder financial exploitation. That's the kind of information that you can share with participants when you give your Money Smart trainings. Then we'll show you what the Money Smart curriculum is and how to use it, as well as some other resources you may want to use when you're giving a Money Smart for Older Adults presentation. Basically, our objective is to tell you how Money Smart for Older Adults can be used to help build your elder fraud prevention and response network. Before we begin with the presentation, we do have a couple polls that we want to do to find out a little bit more about you. If you've been on other webinars with us, you'll recognize this first question about how you describe your organization. And it looks like, as in prior webinars, we have a lot of financial institutions here, and we're very grateful for your participation. We also have a good amount of APS, law enforcement, AAAs, and a lot of other people. You are welcome to put in the chat, those of you who put down other, where you're from if you haven't already. And then we also are asking, since we are curious and very focused on how to make sure to reach people all across the country with Money Smart for Older Adults, especially those with access barriers. So we're asking how your organization reaches those people. And it looks like there's a lot of in-person events at senior centers, financial institutions, as well as webinars, less so with the ethnic media and foreign language publications. So thank you for that information. And we're going to talk a little more later about different ways you can use Money Smart to try to better reach those populations. But let's start our Money Smart for Older Adults training. If you're part of an elder fraud response network or an MDT or a senior Medicare patroller or anyone else working to combat elder financial exploitation, many of you at financial institutions. Money Smart for Older Adults is a great tool. It's a train the trainer resource you can use to give your own presentations. And many of those presentations will begin with an overview of elder financial exploitation and the types of abuse. So we're going to start with that today as well. Now, if you were in a live audience, you might begin by asking people to offer answers to this question: what is elder financial exploitation? People often have a variety of different definitions when they think of elder financial exploitation. For our purposes, when we're talking about it today and with Money Smart, we're defining elder financial exploitation as the illegal or improper use of an older person's funds, property, or assets. And these actions result in depriving that older person of rightful access to or use of benefits, resources, belongings, or assets. And it may be helpful when you give your presentations to share some data. Studies show that financial exploitation is actually the most common form of elder abuse. So more common than things like neglect or physical abuse. Estimates of annual losses to older adults have ranged from $2.9 billion to $36.5 billion. So you can see why it's such an important thing to be talking about. So we're grateful you're all here learning about how to use Money Smart to talk about it. Now, the next thing we would do in the background presentation on Money Smart is to go over some examples of financial exploitation. These are all examples that are covered in greater detail in the Money Smart materials. So if you go to the Money Smart instructor and resource guides, which Ron will tell you more about later, you'll get in-depth information on all of these types of exploitation. So it includes exploitation by an agent under power of attorney as one example. As you probably know, these are people who are legally appointed to administer someone else's money. Sometimes it's someone with diminished capacity or someone else who can't manage their money for other reasons. But sometimes those people abuse that authority and take the older adult's money. There also can be theft of money or property by a family member or caregiver or somebody else who's an in-home helper. So these are thefts by people you know. And then there's investment fraud and scams. This can include things like free lunch seminars, selling unnecessary or fraudulent financial services or products. Increasingly, it can also include cryptocurrency-related scams. We're seeing a lot more investment scams related to cryptocurrency and people claiming to teach you how to invest in cryptocurrency, but really just directing your funds to themselves, the scammer. There's also lottery and sweepstakes scams. So Money Smart for Older Adults goes into more detail about those and how if you are told you've won a lottery and are told you have to pay money up front to claim it, then that's a scam. This slide shows some additional examples of financial exploitation that the Money Smart series covers. The curriculum covers a whole variety of phone, computer, and internet scams. So you all probably know, working in this field, how varied those are. Everything from romance scams, tech support scams, government imposters, the whole gamut. It also covers identity theft. It covers housing-related issues too, like reverse mortgage fraud. Sometimes older adults have equity in their home and scammers try to scam them out of it by conning them into a reverse mortgage. Sometimes a reverse mortgage can be a legitimate and helpful product to consumers, but other times the consumers don't understand what they're getting into and that they are taking equity out of their house to get the money back from the reverse mortgage. It also covers contractor fraud and home improvement scams, which we see affecting people, especially after natural disasters. Finally, and actually the guide covers a lot more than these, but this is the last slide we have with examples of financial exploitation. The guides also cover grandparent scams. This is where somebody calls up and pretends to be the grandchild and asks for money, saying, oh, I'm stuck in jail in another country, or I just got in an accident. Grandma, please wire me money right away and don't tell mom and dad. covers that and what to do. It covers romance scams and charity scams. We know that romance scams are one of the top dollar losses for older adults when it comes to scams. So we're actually going to focus on romance scams as the module that we tell you about later and demonstrate to you later in the presentation. Money Smart also covers the IRS imposter scams and other tax and debt collection scams, as well as a whole variety of phone-related scams. So another thing we usually talk about when we're giving one of these Money Smart presentations is just to start out asking people who could be an abuser, because sometimes it's not who you think it is going to be. It can include people who you know or people who the older adult knows, such as family members or caregivers if they're in the home and have access to money or property and steal it, or if they're, power of attorney or guardian and misuse that legal authority. It can also be friends, neighbors, acquaintances, and even financial professionals. So it's just a good reminder, while we often hear about all the stranger scams, and those are a big part of it, another big part of it are the elder financial exploitation by people who are known to the individual. So this slide also covers that strangers, both internationally and domestically, can be the one who is exploiting the older adult, or really anyone of all ages. We know that these are often sophisticated international crime rings. We're trying to get that message more across to older adults so people are not embarrassed or ashamed to report when they do experience exploitation, especially by a scammer. These are sophisticated crime rings, and it is a crime. So no one should be ashamed or embarrassed about it. So these stranger scams can include all the scams we just went over: telephone, email scams, internet, home repair, Medicare, you name it. And it's really important to remember and to emphasize to the audience when you're giving a Money Smart presentation that anyone and everyone is at risk for elder financial exploitation. Anyone can be the victim. It crosses all social, educational, and economic boundaries. So none of us are immune to potentially experiencing it. So since we know that fraud can affect any and every community, it's important to think about how we reach out to those hard to reach communities. So these polling questions are designed to learn a little bit more about that. We're trying to find out what kind of access barriers you're trying to work around, as well as what groups you're serving. And it looks like there's a lot of transportation and internet access issues, as well as disabilities in language. And if you're answering other to the first question, feel free to type in the chat what the other is. It looks like in terms of groups people are serving, there are a lot of low income, people with disabilities, and really a variety of all the other groups listed on the slide. So later in the presentation, we're going to talk about how you can use Money Smart for older adults to reach these populations. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Ron from the FDIC to talk about the Money Smart for older adults curriculum. And then I'll be back to demonstrate how the romance scam training module works. Ron?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Lisa. On behalf of the FDIC, I'm glad to be here today to tell you more about our Money Smart for older adult curriculum. The program objectives of the Money Smart for older adults curriculum are to raise awareness about elder financial exploitation and to encourage better financial planning and decision making. You'll see that the content of Money Smart is directed at teaching older adults to recognize and reduce the risk of elder financial exploitation, guide against identity theft, plan for unexpected loss of the ability to manage your finances, prepare financially for disasters, and find other helpful resources on managing money and reporting financial exploitation. Our objective is to make older people and their families comfortable with the idea of talking about these issues while removing the taboo and ultimately reporting these financial exploitation scams. Remember, reporting and early intervention are vital to both preventing loss and to recovering loss when possible. I want to spend some time discussing what the program covers. There are 5 principal topics we cover in Money Smart for older adults, and they are common types of financial exploitation, scams that target homeowners, scams that target veterans, planning for unexpected life events, and finally, how to be financially prepared for disasters. Now, we recognize that scams are constantly changing, and that's why we offer Money Smart in Spanish and why we include new content every now and then. The last one was on romance scams, and then we'll be providing supplements. The last one, I believe, was the COVID scam supplement. Ultimately, the program will never be able to cover all possible forms of scams. And that's why it's important to teach skills that can be applied to multiple situations, perhaps situations that are unforeseen today. Remember, each of these segments can be taught collectively or independently of one another based on the particular interests of your audience. The curriculum is award-winning, we're proud to say, having received the American Society on Aging Award for excellence in training and education. There are 3 components of the Money Smart program. First is the instructor guide, which is a fully scripted guide that enables volunteers and professionals from many disciplines to begin teaching the module right away. The second is a resource guide, and that's designed to support classroom instruction by providing key takeaways, and it can also be distributed to older persons and others on its own. And finally, the third component is the PowerPoint presentation, and that supplements classroom instruction. Please note, the instructor guide and resource guide are in 14-point font, making it easier to read. That means the instructor guide and supporting materials are older adult-friendly documents. Instructor guide includes a presentation planning guide. This is really meant for you to decide how to present the training. The entire Money Smart for Older Adults program has more than 3 hours of content. Therefore, the entire program is not meant to be delivered in one setting. Most instructors and facilitators deliver it in 20 to 60-minute timeframes and into specific trainings or presentations for a panel or an entire course delivered over multiple days. That's why we provide an overview of the modules and specific timeframes for each so that you can plan your presentations. The guide also includes tips for presenting and all of the content that is included in the resource guide that you can hand out to your participants. The resource guide can be ordered in bulk at no charge from the CFPB at consumerfinance.gov/Money Smart. This slide here that you're seeing is a snapshot of the instructor guide. As you can see, one of the features that it shows is the PowerPoint slide that correlates with the content, along with the specific section of the resource guide that it's connected to. The guide includes information and activities, tools and instructions, a glossary, resources, and information on where to report elder financial exploitation. The guide can be distributed as a standalone handout for distribution to older people, their caregivers, and others. It can be shared at conferences or at a variety of events and locations, including, for example, senior community centers, senior housing communities, faith communities, local libraries, financial institutions. There's a vast array of locations. Now, the MSOA has a participant evaluation form that includes pre-post knowledge assessments, but also trainer and training assessments. You can use some or all of the questions, but it's always good to gather some feedback. Evaluation results can be helpful to funders to demonstrate effectiveness or to share with stakeholders who might be interested in collaborating with you. But you don't have to limit yourself to evaluation forms at the end of the modules. In fact, there are many activities throughout the training that serve as a great way to evaluate your work. You can use the activity results in the module and compare people who took the training to those who didn't complete the training. Of course, you can have your own measures as well. Often the best measures come in the form of success stories of people who, after participating in the program, helped someone in need, for example, or maybe they became trainers. So we make the entire module available in Spanish. This includes the instructor guide. And so now the 3 resources are available in both Spanish and English. And like we mentioned, the curriculum has the added benefit of being printed in 14-point font for ease of reading for older persons or older volunteer presenters or people like me who don't have the best eyesight. Okay, so one of the key features is that the Spanish version of Money Smart for older adults in its entirety was developed to be as much as possible a mirror of the English version. The goal is to make it useful for both bilingual trainers and audiences. But we also know many older adults live in bilingual households. So having these 2 resources with the same design and structure in both languages helps the older adult to share it with others and helps others to share the same information with an older adult. Now, back to Lisa.
Thanks, Ron. And so now that Ron has explained what the MSOA curriculum includes, I'm going to talk about how you can use Money Smart, and then I'll demonstrate one of the modules on romance scams. So if you're part of a network, or even if you're not part of a network, here are 2 ways you can consider using Money Smart for older adults. The first is that your organization can use it directly. If you're a service provider or a community-based organization, or all the financial institutions that are on this call, you can take the materials yourself and give presentations in your community. The second way is to partner with others. If you're a community organization, partner with a financial institution. If you're a financial institution, think about partnering with a community organization. Often these kind of partnerships with APS or senior service providers to give Money Smart for older adults presentations work out well, and they also help you expand your network. And Money Smart for older adults, as we mentioned at the start, is an FDIC product. So many banks and financial institutions are familiar with it and use it a lot. So it can make that easier for community organizations to approach a financial institution about Money Smart because there is that familiarity often. And like I said, using Money Smart can be a really great way to bring together people in your network working to convey messages to the public about preventing elder financial exploitation. So if you're looking for an event to help launch your network, get your network started, or even one to grow your network, grow on the momentum from your first convening, then please do think about hosting a Money Smart for older adults training. When using Money Smart, it's also good to think about working together with stakeholders, like I mentioned, especially law enforcement and adult protective services. This slide shows a variety of ways you can work with law enforcement and APS. You can co-present. You might want to meet privately with participants after, or law enforcement or APS may want to take them aside after and help them with their particular situation. Or you can work as part of a multidisciplinary team to support fraud victims. And remember, like Ron was saying, you can choose a topic of interest. So you can do one module or mini modules. So it covers things like identity theft or scams targeting veterans, medical ID theft, scams targeting homeowners, or financial preparation for disasters. So if you know in your community there's been, or people are concerned about natural disasters, maybe hurricane season's approaching, you could focus on that module. Or if you heard about a data breach and there's been a lot of medical identity theft in your community, maybe you want to focus on that. If you have a lot of veterans, look at that. There are all sorts of angles you can take and modules you can use depending on the needs of your particular community. And like I said, it's really especially a good tool for engaging with law enforcement and adult protective services. You can co-present with them, which often allows them to introduce their agencies to the audience. Sometimes people don't know where to report elder financial exploitation, or they're scared to report it. And just by having law enforcement or APS at an event like this, people become familiar with them and who are the points of contact in their community. And that can really help increase reporting of elder financial exploitation. You can also use Money Smart to help train a multidisciplinary team or an elder justice task force. And you may want to think about it as a benchmark for your network building. You could try setting an outreach goal for the number of Money Smart for Older Adults presentations that you want to do in a year and the number of participants you want to reach. That can be a really helpful metric for showing how your network is growing. And that can always be helpful for funding too, if you're applying for funding to help fund your network. Also important to think about where you use Money Smart for older adults. We like to think about meeting older adults where they are. That can often help with the access barriers we were talking about. So any place where older adults live, work, or play. So this slide has some ideas like where people live, senior centers, assisted living, where they hang out. Again, senior centers, but also faith-based organizations, retirement groups, and other organizations that might reach out to them, community organizations, or this time of year, the VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, is a great way to reach a lot of low-income people in particular. And also good to remember that virtual is an option that we all have grown to know and love over the pandemic. So that's an option as well. So when you're giving a presentation, these are some of the things to think about, and these are all covered in the Money Smart instructor guide as well. Think about whether it's going to be in person or virtual, and if it is going to be in person, especially for an older adult audience, it's good to think about logistics, like is there parking so that people don't have to walk really far to where the event is. Think about the time of day. Some older adults don't like driving at night, so perhaps a daytime session would be better if it's something they have to drive to. Also think about the name of the class. You might not want to say seniors or use language like scammed or duped. Instead, use empowering language and empowering visuals. If you put photos of people, not putting some frail lady, but rather putting, a strong older woman who looks like she knows what she's talking about. Those might be ways to draw people in. Also think about partnerships and content, which modules are going to use and which activities. I'll show you later some of the activities that they offer through the Money Smart for Older Adults guide that can help make your presentation more interesting and more interactive. And finally, think about whether you can offer anything like lunch or snacks that can attract people and draw them into the presentation. In terms of marketing, this is all about networking. So it's a great way to grow your network and develop a database of community partners that can help not only with marketing your event, but with your network going forward. Of course, you can use things like community bulletin boards or circulate information by hand or word of mouth, or online community calendars or emails or listservs are a great way to let people know about Money Smart training events as well. And since we are talking a lot about how to reach those who are harder to reach, think about also how you're going to reach rural populations who may not have the internet access or for whom transportation may be a bigger barrier, as well as limited English proficiency populations. And as Ron said, Money Smart for older adults, the entire curriculum is available in Spanish too. So you can order the Spanish versions for free, just like the English versions. You can also think about combining Money Smart with other programs you're running or partnering with a local consumer reporter to raise awareness using Money Smart. And again, you can use those pre-tests and post-tests that Ron described to help measure your success. So for networks using MSOA, here are a few additional thoughts before we get to the training module. So you might want to think about within your network, you could create an MSOA speakers bureau so that there are a bunch of people in your network on hand who are ready, willing, and able to give Money Smart for older adults presentations. That can be a really great resource for the community. Another idea is that when you organize Money Smart for older adults events, you might want to link it to a commemorative event like Older Americans Month in May or World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15th. So those are events every year that you can link your network activities to, or your Money Smart for older adults activities, or both. So these are a great way to host an event and maybe even bring in new network members. So now that you know what MSOA is and how to use it, let's look at a snapshot of one of the modules. This is the romance scam module. It's our most recently updated one. And this should give you an example of what you do if you were offering a training on this particular topic, romance scams. And like I said, you could pick any of the topics out of the instructor guide and resource guide, depending on your audience. So I'm going to use the slides that Money Smart for older adults provides on romance scams that you would get in your PowerPoint and walk you through what that presentation might look like. And as you'll see, for each module, for each type of scam, what we do is describe the scams and how to recognize them. And then we highlight warning signs and finally give tips on where to go for help. So let's start a romance scam training. And if you were starting the training, you might want to start by asking the audience, what is a romance scam? Who knows what it is? And you probably get a lot of stories, unfortunately, of people who have experienced a romance scam or know someone who has, because these are very prevalent. And then once you hear other people's stories, you can explain that, what we're talking about here in terms of romance scams is when somebody says they love you, but then they ask for money for an emergency or something else. Usually they ask for it by gift card or wire transfer, increasingly by cryptocurrency as well. And this can happen online or in person. And what the scammers do, here's how the romance scam works. Probably most of you on the call know this, but this is how you would describe it to people in your audience. Somebody gets to know you online usually, although it can be in person too. They may take it off the dating platform or off the social media platform. They often try to grow the so-called relationship by saying they have things in common, like they like dogs if you like dogs, they like art if you like art. And they'll actually spend time developing a relationship because these can be big dollar crimes for the scammers. Then once they've developed that relationship, oftentimes starting with small requests for money, then they may ask for a larger chunk of money for medical reasons or for travel or customs or for a loan. And one of the big red flags, which is good to highlight for people, is they often ask to be paid by gift card or wire transfer because they know it's very hard to get your money back if you send it that way. It can also be helpful as part of your presentation to, give a story of a romance scam that affected an actual victim without, of course, disclosing any information about that particular victim. But for example, One woman testified recently at the Senate Committee on Aging about her story of a romance scam, and it can be very compelling to people to hear that. She was widowed and had been widowed for several years, and a man reached out to her on Facebook. He said he liked dogs and gardening like she did. And then he introduced her to what he said was his daughter and his other children. She had never had children of her own, so she was very happy to get to know his children. Then the children started asking for money, gift cards for feminine products, then more gift cards for various things they said they needed but were embarrassed to ask their dad about. And then it developed on to where he said he was coming to visit. And he even showed this woman all of his finances to show he was so-called legit and had a lot of money in the bank, and talked about how they were going to start a life together. But then he said he needed $20,000 to get there to see her. And that's when she realized that it was a scam. But unfortunately, she had already spent all of her husband's life insurance, her late husband's life insurance money, and did not have money to pay for her basic expenses. So sometimes sharing a story like that can help people recognize that it really can happen to anyone, that it develops slowly. Oftentimes, romance scams people aren't really willing to recognize as a scam, but hearing a story of how it happens to someone else can help them sometimes recognize, oh, if that was a scam for that person, then maybe what I'm going through is a scam too. So as I mentioned, these romance scams can happen online or in person. We have information about both in Money Smart for Older Adults. This slide talks about the online version. It can start on a dating app, but it oftentimes starts just on regular social media. And these are international crime rings. They set up false profiles and fake pictures and create similarities to you. And they'll often send the same photo and fake information to tens, if not hundreds of people at the same time. Then they'll usually make excuses to not meet in person. This has become easier and more believable during COVID. Now it's less believable now that people are traveling more, but they come up with new reasons and excuses each time. There also are in-person romance scams, and Money Smart covers that as well, because it could be someone in your church or temple or social group, especially, unfortunately, after a spouse passes away. Sometimes in these grief groups even, people prey on people in some of their most vulnerable times. So it's important to be aware and on the lookout for these in-person romance scams as well. So as I said, the Money Smart, each of these modules about each scam, they not only describe the scam, but then they talk about some of the warning signs, because we know that when people are able to recognize a scam, they're far less likely to lose money to the scam. That's what the research shows. So Money Smart goes over some of the warning signs that are listed here, like if the person becomes overly complimentary and showers you with a ton of attention really fast. That may not be true love. It may be a scammer. If they want to keep things secret, that's a big red flag. And also, if they're starting to get interested in your finances quickly, that's also an issue. Or asking you to pay for stuff. I mean, that's the main big red flag, is if they're starting to ask you to pay for stuff for them to travel or for medical expenses. And especially for online romance scams, it's important for people to think about how the person is asking you to pay. So if they're asking to send money by gift card or cryptocurrency, that's a big red flag of a lot of these scams. Now, you'll probably find, I imagine a lot of you give these presentations in the community as well, but if you do start giving Money Smart for Older Adult presentations, there'll be someone in the audience who's experienced a scam and needs help. So the slides go over that too. It offers some general tips like stop communication, talk to someone else who you trust, because often that person who you trust can, convince you that it is a scam and can help you through it. Tell your financial institution if you sent money through the financial institution, and also report scammers to Adult Protective Services, to the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov, and to local law enforcement. So now by doing these trainings as part of a network and by including law enforcement and APS, audiences will better get to know APS and law enforcement and know where to report. So that's another thing to think about in terms of getting help and how these trainings can be a tool for networks to help increase reporting in your community. So that's how a romance scam module might be used by a network. We have lots of other modules on lots of other topics that we showed you at the start of the presentation. There also are some activities that are part of Money Smart for older adults and that we would encourage you to try to use in your presentations. For example, the Money Smart for older adults instructor guides has an activity on telephone scams. So if you have time during your presentation, you could consider doing the activity on phone scams. It offers scam scenarios and asks participants to identify red flags. So I can give you an example of one of those scenarios. It gives 4 or 5 of these, but here's one of them. It says, Jane's home watching TV when the telephone rings. She answers the call, and the man on the line says, "Congratulations, you've won $2.7 million in the lottery." Jane's surprised. Although she buys lottery tickets, she hasn't given her name to anyone. The caller tells her that there are a couple of things she needs to do before she can receive her check. He directs Jane to go to her bank and withdraw $2,700 to cover processing fees. He tells her to forward the funds through a local wire service or to buy and send a special prepaid card that will expedite the process. Jane heads to her bank to withdraw the money. The next day, the person calls to say they received the funds and an additional $5,000 is needed to pay the taxes. Now, I'm sure all of you listening to that recognized about 5 or 6 red flags about how that's a scam. So that's what these scenarios are designed to do, is to start discussions with your audience about what were the red flags in that scenario and how could you recognize that scam and what should you do. We also have an activity on identity theft. So if you're talking about identity theft as part of your presentation, you might want to look for that. It's activity 3 in the resource guide. And it basically asks people to consider identity theft protection measures and to what extent they're actually implementing them in their own lives. So it gives you a sheet and you can tally your score and see where you need to improve. So that's a great activity as well. So that concludes the substantive part of the training and parallels the content that you'd give in a Money Smart for older adults training. Next, I'm going to turn it back to Ron to tell you about some of the additional Money Smart resources that your networks can use when you're giving these presentations.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. So Money Smart for older adults is part of a larger Money Smart suite of products that we offer at the FDIC. Money Smart is a comprehensive financial education curriculum designed to help low and moderate income individuals who are outside the financial mainstream to enhance their financial skills and to create positive banking relationships. Money Smart products are available free of charge in several iterations. We have products for instructors to teach others in various ways, various products. We have Money Smart for young people. By young people, we mean those in grades pre-K through grade 12 in high school. We have Money Smart for young adults, ages 16 to 24. Money Smart for adults is another product which we fully redeveloped into a new curriculum in 2018. We also have Money Smart for small business, which are in which we collaborate with the Small Business Administration. Now, the Small Business Administration focuses on the needs of new and existing entrepreneurs. And finally, we have Money Smart for older adults, which we developed with the CFPB. We also have products that can be used by anyone as self-paced resources. Although we no longer offer a CBI, we do now offer something better, an online game called How Money Smart Are You? We also have a portable audio MP3 version that we call the Money Smart Podcast Network. Now, here we wanted to just preview what we expect to provide you very soon. By the next World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, you should be able to access mini PowerPoints, mini resource guides, and mini instructor guides that are topic specific. Everything that you already can find in the singular MSOA curriculum will also be available on this webpage, but it will simply be broken down by topic for ease of use. Now, this is just another way of looking for these kinds of material. This table is just a way for looking for many PowerPoints, IGs and RGs, and those will cover the topics that you'll probably be looking for. Eventually, we'll also provide a similar table that will include newly co-branded ancillary materials such as placemats, posters, bookmarks, and these will serve as synergistic resources for the topics you want to cover. You can stay up to date on what's going on with the Money Smart program through Money Smart News. You can view it online or subscribe to it. It provides updates on the Money Smart program. It also includes success stories, hopefully some success stories that you submit. The success stories can range from best practices. We have one, for instance, on teachers who help people with visual impairments. And we have another on a bank that promoted financial education through a summer employment program. So we just look for success stories, and we're eager to get more success stories on the use of Money Smart for older adults. Now, the FDIC recognizes organizations that contribute to the delivery of Money Smart to consumers and small business through the Money Smart Alliance program. We welcome these types of organizations to join the Money Smart Alliance. That list includes federal insured financial institutions, of course, nonprofit organizations that have been recognized as tax exempt by the IRS, other federal agencies, K through 12 schools, school districts, colleges and universities, other state and local government agencies. Now, Alliance members agree to use or promote Money Smart by offering Money Smart trainings or train the trainer events. And Alliance members also support other local organizations that use Money Smart. Alliance members also provide feedback to us to help us improve the Money Smart program by including in participation in our evaluation efforts. It's simple to join. Just submit an application to join online. Now I'll hand it back to Lisa to talk about some CFPB resources that you might want to use as part of your MSOA training or other network initiatives.
Thanks so much, Ron. So in addition to the Money Smart resources that Ron just discussed, I want to tell you about a few other resources. First, some from other agencies, and then ones from CFPB. One question we've been getting on all of these webinars in this series is, how can I find a network near me? So the best place to start is the DOJ Elder Justice Network Locator, and that's the first link listed on this slide. You can also contact your local area agency on aging, APS, or legal aid, or you can contact the triads in your area to find out about networks and other groups that are working in this space. Also want to make sure people know about the Elder Care Locator, which is the third bullet on this slide. That is a wonderful resource, not only to identify your AAAs or networks, but to identify all sorts of resources for people. For example, if you're working with somebody who's being financially exploited and you also notice they don't have enough food in their house, you can find resources for how to get meal delivery or other things they may need. And it's broken down by area of the country, so you can get it specific to where you are. Now, the last bullet on this slide is our CFPB's newly updated Network Development Guide, and that is a key resource for all networks or people who are starting a network, or if you're trying to grow a network too. So if you were with us in the first webinar of this series, you got an in-depth look at our recently updated Network Development Guide. So the guide contains resources for planning a network retreat, for hosting and facilitating that retreat or convening, and also for establishing a network, expanding network capabilities, and a bunch of other resources. It's also been updated to give you a lot of interactive templates and resources, agendas, timelines, everything you need to plan and host convenings, as well as resources to help you expand your network. So if you did not attend our first webinar and want to, at the end, I'm going to give you information about how you can hear the recordings of all the earlier webinars. But for now, I just want to point out to people to check out this network development guide, and that the network model that you all are a part of or are listening because you'd like to become a part of, those networks and Money Smart for Older Adults really go hand in hand as ways to establish and grow your network. And we're excited that the Money Smart for Older Adults curriculum has been expanding in recent years. In fact, we recently co-branded our Managing Someone Else's Money Guides with the FDIC as part of the Money Smart curriculum. So you can find everything that's Money Smart at consumerfinance.gov/moneysmart, including these Managing Someone Else's Money Guides, which are guides for financial caregivers to help them understand their duties. So they provide tips and resources for people who are acting as agents under power of attorney, guardians, conservators, Social Security rep payees, VA fiduciaries, trustees. There are different guides for different types of financial caregivers. And they go over what that person's rights and responsibilities are and describe warning signs of financial exploitation, as well as how to look out for scams. So we really hope you will order these and use these in your community as well. And all of the CFPB materials that we've talked about today are available in bulk for free. Most of them are in English and in Spanish at consumerfinance.gov/order, and that includes free shipping. Considering a financial caregiver is also part of the Managing Someone Else's Money series and now part of Money Smart. This is designed for people early in the caregiving process who want to know their options for an informal financial caregiver or a formal financial caregiver, as well as tips on how to select that person. So if you or someone you care about is starting to think that maybe they need help with their finances, this goes over things like trusted contacts, convenience accounts, as well as powers of attorney and guardianship. So it's really a great place to start. And of course, planning for financial caregiving can help people avoid elder financial exploitation. If you do have a good and trustworthy financial caregiver in place, that can be helpful. We also have expanded our Money Smart for Older Adults curriculum and our joint curriculum with FDIC by bringing in our fraud prevention placemats. These were originally placemats, literally placemats, that we used with meal delivery programs. So the placemat would go underneath the meal and it would have a brightly colored fraud prevention message on it about a specific type of fraud or scam so that people can learn to recognize and avoid that fraud or scam. We noticed that a lot of people were ordering these because they are really quick, easy ways to alert people about scams. We got orders from financial institutions, from law enforcement, from elsewhere. So we've expanded them to not only be placemats, but also be posters, bookmarks, etc. And they all are part of Money Smart for Older Adults. One thing you may want to consider if you're giving a Money Smart training, some of the newer placemats actually include word games, crossword puzzles, word finds, and other interactive ways to learn about fraud and scams. So that can be a really good thing to, pass out at your Money Smart session while people are filing in and waiting, or just as something, fun for them to take home with them afterwards. So think about, if you do give a Money Smart training, not only ordering those resource guides to pass out, but also ordering some of the placemats, especially perhaps the word game placemats. In addition to all of these great resources, we also want to make sure that people know how to submit a complaint to the CFPB. And you can feel free to include this information in Money Smart presentations as well. The way to file a complaint with CFPB is through consumerfinance.gov/complaint. And the CFPB helps consumers connect with financial companies to understand issues, to fix errors, and get direct responses. So if a consumer has a problem with a financial product or service, like a credit card or a checking account, we do encourage them to first reach out to the company or financial institution to try to resolve it directly. But if that does not work, then they can submit a complaint to the CFPB and tell us about their issue. We'll then forward it to the company and work to get them a response, which generally happens within 15 days. So just to give you an idea, if you're working with somebody who has a fraud or scam complaint, that probably should be submitted to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, at reportfraud.ftc.gov. But if the consumer has a complaint about a financial product or service, that should come to us at the CFPB. So that includes things like loans, mortgages, student loans, payday loans, auto loans or leases, products and services like checking or savings accounts, credit cards, prepaid cards, credit reporting, debt collection, money transfers, or check cashing services. So that gives you an idea of the types of complaints we receive. And we do also track trends in the complaints we receive and use that data to prioritize where to focus our policy, supervision, and enforcement work. So we do encourage you to help people learn how to file complaints with the CFPB. So as a reminder, you can order Money Smart for older adults at consumerfinance.gov/order. You can find it at consumerfinance.gov/moneysmart, or you can download materials from the FDIC website. So we do hope you'll take what you learned today and share it in your communities to help fight fraud and scams and elder financial exploitation. And we're happy to take your questions now at this point. I think some have come into the chat, and I believe someone from the ICF team will be letting Ron and I know about what questions to answer.
Yep, absolutely. I now am going to invite the presenters to come on camera for the Q&A portion. As Lisa mentioned, we've been getting a lot of really good questions, so we're going to do our best to get to as many of them as possible. So the first question I think is for you, Ron. When did you say the FDIC pages are looking to be updated and available?
At the latest, by June 15th of this year, but we are pushing it as soon as we can.
Great, thank you. And I'd also like to add that there are lots of good resources on the FDIC website, so you don't need to wait for all those updates to check out what good materials they have available. The next question is about using the slides and modules. Are people able to split them up into smaller portions and adapt them for their use in their own trainings?
Well, I'll start first, Lisa, then you could chime in. The Money Smart program in general, and this applies to MSOA, it's really meant so that the user can customize it in any way they see fit, incorporate material that might lie outside the reach of FDIC or otherwise. So yes, it's really, it belongs to you already, right? It's not proprietary to us. So I guess that's one way to answer, Lisa.
No, I think that's a really good point, that it's not copyrighted or proprietary, so you can take it and use it. And it is designed to be used and tailored to your needs so that you can take separate modules out depending on what scams you're seeing in your community. The updates that Ron is talking about is just designed to make it easier for you. So they'll already be separated by topic and you can just put together the topics easily, but you certainly are free to separate themselves until they're ready and they're easy bite-sized chunks for you to use. You are definitely free and encouraged to separate them and put them together in a way that makes sense for your audience.
Great. The next question is about putting together trainings. Is there a good average class size or number of people that you should be aiming for when putting together a training?
I think it varies a lot depending on the setting and depending on the comfort of the presenter. I mean, it can be good with 5 to 10 people. Ideally, you'd have like at least 30 or 40 people just to make it worth your while. And it can also be done with, 100+ people. But I mean, I tend to think that it may be more effective at less than 100 people, somewhere between 30 to 75 or 80, but that's just really a personal preference. It can be done with any size audience. You just have to tailor it to the size. I don't know if you have thoughts, Ron.
No, I think you said it best. I couldn't say anything more.
Great. Are the Money Smart for Older Adults materials updated for newer scams like crypto fraud and investing? And if not, are there ways that you can use the modules or other resources to address these issues?
Yeah, that's a
Well,
great question. There are investment scams are in the Money Smart materials, and we are looking at them now to see what types of updates we may want to and be able to make. So if you have things that you think should be in there, obviously crypto is one we're considering whether to add or not. But really, the general tips about how to recognize and avoid scams apply to a wide variety of scams, and the general investment scam tips can apply to crypto scams too. So you can use a lot of the existing Money Smart materials just to teach people how to recognize and avoid scams generally. And a lot of those general tips about think about the payment method, don't let people rush you, those types of things can help with a whole host of scams.
well said, Lisa. It's a matter of whether crypto asset scams are independent or is it a means by which to carry out other kinds of scams. I can say that Lisa and I and our teammates are part of various interagency, inter-industry, consumer group advocacy groups exploring the issue, trying to figure out how and if and when to address the issue of crypto assets in financial literacy generally. But in the meantime, of course, if you have found or discovered materials, right, those other kinds of materials that lie outside the product offerings as they exist now, then you're probably in the best position to know what your audience, what your stakeholders, what your beneficiaries need, and you can incorporate that into your overall approach.
Great. Yeah, I really like that these materials are customizable to your audience and the needs of your community. Thinking about, Lisa mentioned earlier, making sure that we're attracting people to trainings. Are there ideas or examples of titles that you've seen that empower and attract people to join these trainings? I'd also like to open up to the chat if you think of any ideas of good titles that would attract people to come to this training.
Yes, that would be great to open it to the chat. I mean, two things come to mind to me right off the bat. One is Money Smart for Older Adults. I mean, we tried to make that title so that it is empowering, not just for older adults, but everyone, the Money Smart idea that people think, oh, I can be smart about money. I mean, that's empowering. And for older adults, as opposed to the elderly or seniors, older adults seems to be the favored term at this moment in time. So Money Smart for Older Adults, you could just call it that. And then it also has that name recognition. But I think also you can look at AARP recently did, and FINRA recently released a report on the language that we use to talk about fraud and scams and making sure that it is empowering. And it sets out a lot of guidelines about, making sure that people understand that these are criminals doing it and that it's not just someone being duped. So it gives some examples of empowering language as well.
That's well said, Lisa. It's a key question. I know in the federal sector, amongst the groups that Lisa and I and others have engaged, the terminology, titles, as you call them, the use of senior versus older adults, older Americans. They have very important implications. So thank you very much for the question. But I think Lisa's answer is the best way forward at this point.
Great. One question was about a scam in particular. How have you seen scams in the reverse mortgage area when many seniors are receiving housing counseling um, before they engage with a reverse mortgage?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I don't mean to imply that all reverse mortgages are scams, because certainly, as I said, reverse mortgages can be very helpful financial tools for certain people in certain situations. But sometimes they can be scams where the person is not really properly advised or doesn't know that they can and should go through that housing counselor. If a scammer approaches them with something and they don't go through the proper channels of the housing counseling, they may not know that housing counseling is available and indeed oftentimes required for reverse mortgages, and could, then get someone into an agreement that they either don't understand or that is, taking away from the equity in the house in a way that they don't realize or understand. For example, when I was at legal aid, I had a client who wanted all new windows in her house, and the person who came to replace the windows set her up with financing too. And it turned out to be a reverse mortgage that was taking out equity from her house. And she didn't realize till she brought us the papers that that's what went on. She just thought she was getting some sort of special discount for older adults for their windows. So that's an example of how it can happen. But of course, reverse mortgages can also be legitimate financial products for people.
Yeah, I think the key is what Lisa said. Is it an authentic housing counselor or somebody who has a vested interest in selling the reverse mortgage? And are they credentialed? Are they certified by HUD, for instance? Lisa, doesn't the CFPB have a reverse mortgage guide that could be useful to answer that kind of question?
Yes, that's a very good point. And perhaps someone can put that in the chat, but consumerfinance.gov/reverse mortgages. We have a reverse mortgage rights and responsibilities guide and a whole host of other materials on reverse mortgages.
Great. Another question is it still considered a romance scam if one spouse is taking financial advantage of the other? And how can a scam like this be identified and reported?
Well, some may consider it a romance scam, some may not. Some may consider it intimate partner violence, or financial abuse by a spouse. I guess I personally wouldn't think of it as a traditional romance scam, but rather as intimate partner violence or like a spousal financial abuse situation. How do you get people to recognize and report that? That is a big challenge. Recognizing it oftentimes is not the problem as much as reporting, because there's also, all sorts of concerns, because as we know, oftentimes financial abuse is accompanied by physical abuse or other types of abuse and vice versa. So I would encourage anyone in that situation or who is confronted with someone facing that situation to, consult with knowledgeable professionals in the intimate partner violence space and use their websites in order to get information on that.
Well said, Lisa. Nothing to add.
Great. There was a question about door-to-door scams that might come up for seniors. Could you talk a little bit about that area and how these resources can help?
Sure. There are all sorts of door-to-door scams that can come up. A recent one that's been in the news is door-to-door sale of alarms. An alarm company saying that here we'll help install a burglar alarm in your home. And there was all sorts of scam information that was involved in that particular event. People can Google it and will probably find a case that involves some federal agencies about this alarm company that I won't name, but that is one example of the door-to-door scams. There's all sorts of door-to-door scams that come up, and the information in Money Smart for Older Adults addresses those as well as a wide variety of other scams.
And then the typical home repair scams, especially after weather incidents, that's pretty common. I almost got hit with it, and I think it started me to think, well, if I was home more often, I'd probably get hit more often with these kinds of things. And I think that's why it's an important topic to include for older adults, because they tend to be home more. So.
And the FTC also has good resources on door-to-door sales and the cooling off rule, because there are special laws related to if you make a contract door-to-door. I believe you have 3 days or something to rescind it. But check the FTC website for the door-to-door sales rule and the cooling off rule, because there are special rules related to door-to-door sales and scams that happen that way. Extra protections for consumers.
Great.
Are there other questions?
We have a few more. So the next one is, do you find that people who are non-low income can still be exploited or can gain benefit from this training?
Absolutely. I think it started, one of my first slides was about how elder financial exploitation and indeed any type of fraud and scams can happen to anyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, gender. It can happen to anyone. So anyone can benefit from this training for sure.
Yeah, the only difference is low moderate income folks can't afford it as much to get hit as hard. So.
That's a good point.
All right. So one question is, if someone, we've gotten great information today and they want to get started, how do they started in teaching Money Smart for older adults in their community? How do you recommend they best get started?
Well, they can go to consumerfinance.gov/moneysmart, and I guess Ron can probably give the FDIC equivalent. They can go there too. But if they want to order print materials, I would say, after you get off this webinar, go to consumerfinance.gov/order and order a bunch of the Money Smart resource guides and instructor guides. I mean, you probably need only a few of the instructor guides for you and whoever else is going to be the trainer and presenter in your community, but a lot of the resource guides to hand out to people when you give your training, and then also order some of the placemats and perhaps even the managing someone else's money guides. And if I were doing it, I would order those crossword word games ones to have at the training, in addition to the resource guides for people, and think about ordering them in Spanish if that's a population you're serving as well. And I see someone asking if there's a limit on the number of materials. There is a limit set when you go to consumerfinance.gov/order, but if you need more than that, then do feel free to reach out to us, and we can work to make sure that you get all the products that you need, because that's what they're there for, is so that you can get them out in the community and reach people with them. So we want to help with that. And at the end, we'll have a slide with our contact information.
And then I would just add, after you do all that, come on to the FDIC website, search Money Smart, and subscribe to the Money Smart News. You may find organizations that are similarly situated to yours and learn from them. Join the Money Smart Alliance, where you'll get into a very good network, and sign up for our webinars. We do train-to-trainer webinars virtually, and you can get tips on how to provide financial education generally, training other folks as well.
Great. And I think my colleague Jennifer Duane has something she wants to jump in and add.
Thanks so much, Lisa and Ron. This has been really great. As far as getting started and finding resources, I highly recommend that, I should say, highly recommend that you check up with your area agency on aging and find out if there is and Elder Abuse Task Force Coalition, Financial Abuse Specialist Team. We call them networks, but they often have different names. And if there's a group already working in your community, you can team up with them, and you will have Older Americans Month coming up in May and World Elder Abuse Awareness Month coming up in June. And those are times when often communities are coming together around this. And if they're not, maybe you would like to help lead the charge. But the Area Agency on Aging usually knows if there are groups working on elder justice or elder abuse prevention, including elder financial exploitation. So I just wanted to mention that. And again, you can go to the elder care locator. I think it's in the quick links down here. I hope it is. If it's not, maybe somebody can type it in. Yes, it is. It's right down there, elder care locator at .acl.gov. If you go in, put in your zip code, scroll down to elder abuse, I believe it's one of the topics, and it'll give you a local contact number who can then hook you up with people who are already doing it. If you're a financial institution, strongly recommend you team up with APS and law enforcement because, as Lisa mentioned earlier, elder financial exploitation is a form of elder abuse, and in some situations, other types of abuse run hand in hand. So it's really good to be connected to your responders when you're doing this work. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I think we're going to now turn to our final polls and concluding remarks. So here we have a few polls, just like at the end of a Money Smart training. It's good to ask whether people learned something from the training and whether it helped them and whether it'll be valuable to their work. So I'm glad to see that most people did find that it would be helpful and valuable. You also feel free to tell us in the chat in more detail what was the most useful part of the training and whether you have thoughts on how you plan to use what you learned in today's training in your network or in your community. Okay, I think our poll is looks like it's pretty well complete, with most people saying that it was helpful and valuable to their work. So I do want to remind people that in addition to today's webinar, which was the 5th and final webinar in our series, if you missed any of our earlier webinars, you can still watch the recordings. This slide shows what the first 4 webinars were. The first one was on new resources for our Elder Fraud Prevention and Response Network. So it focused on our updated network development guide, which I highlighted during the presentation. The second 2 were very interesting talks with people from different states about how they develop networks in their states. So webinar 2 had people from Michigan and South Carolina. Webinar 3 had people from Hawaii and Florida talking about best practices for networks. And webinar 4, if you missed that, that was on our Recovering from Elder Financial Exploitation report, and what are the factors that affect whether people do recover when they lose money to financial exploitation. So after this webinar, you'll get a link by email to this webinar's recording, and you'll also be able to access all of those other recordings of the prior webinars as well. So we do want to thank you so much for attending this webinar series. We've been really pleased to see how many people were interested in this topic, and we do hope that you'll take what you learned today, share it in your communities, use it with your networks. As a reminder, you can order Money Smart for older adults at consumerfinance.gov/order or download it from FDIC's website. And here's our contact information if you need a larger number of those publications or if you need anything else as you're trying to develop your network. Please feel free to reach out to me or Ron about Money Smart, and please feel free to reach out to me or Jennifer about our elder networks at eldernetworks@cfpb.gov. So with that, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you'll take what you learned today and share it in your community to help fight scams and elder financial exploitation. Have a great day, everyone.